in September of 2016 while they were riding home through Midtown Atlanta. McIver claims he fell asleep in the back seat when a loaded gun in his lap accidentally went off, striking his wife, who was sitting in the front passenger seat. Danny Jo Carter, Diane McIver's best friend of 40 years, was driving the SUV that night. She drove the couple to Emory Hospital, where Diane died the next day. In December, about 3 months after the shooting, Fulton County issues a warrant for McIver's arrest. The charges include felony involuntary manslaughter. McIver turned himself in later that night, but was free on bond just 2 days later. Things change on April 14, 2017, when police find a gun in McIver's Buckhead apartment, a violation of the terms of his bond. Later that month, McIver is indicted on new upgraded charges, including malice murder, felony murder, and witness tampering involving Danny Jo Carter, the woman who was driving the SUV. Judge Robert McBurney is presiding over the case in Fulton County Superior Court. He denied bond to McIver once the murder charge was announced, but a few months later, in October of 2017, set bond at $750,000.
That's Morgan & Morgan. Go to Atlanta.
All right, we're on, folks. Great to have you aboard. Good evening. I'm Vinnie Politan. Thanks so much for joining us here on our Facebook Live show. We do it every night at 7:30. Today was day one of the Tex McIver Murder Trial. Tex McIver on trial for the murder of his wife, Diane. He shot and killed her. The question at trial is, was it an accident or was it murder? And Joe Flo, you got enough?
Yep.
I think you need a little more slack there.
I need a little more slack.
All right, don't worry about it. We'll
We're
get, hey,
live.
Dal, stay
Oh.
seated, Dal.
Joe, time to get your internet
Beauty
connected.
about Facebook Live.
This is Facebook Live. All right, I'm Vinnie Politan. Thanks so much, folks, for joining us on this Facebook Live. Again, I want to introduce to you who we have with us tonight, my legal dream team. Lawrence Zimmerman, incredible criminal defense attorney, and Daryl Cohen, former prosecutor at the Fulton County Prosecutor's Office.
Tis true.
But that was a few years ago. Right now,
More than a few years ago.
more than a few years ago. Right now, he's a great defense attorney, does entertainment law as well. So we're going to begin, and we do this each night at 7:30. Begin with our rapid fire, off the top. Get a quick take from each member of our legal dream team on a bunch of issues that came up today, and then we'll have a much further, more in-depth discussion, and we'll take a look at what you're saying as well online. So, are you ready, gentlemen?
Let's roll.
All right.
We're rocking.
In the opening statement, the defense said that he loved her, but the prosecution pointed out that he didn't pick up her remains, and a friend had to actually pick them up for just $1,600. So my question to you two is, did he love her more than he loved money?
I don't think one has anything to do with the other. He loved her. She was dead. The remains are done. They're cremated. It's over.
It's a non-issue. I mean, that he didn't pick up over the money, I just think that's a side issue. Of course he loved her more than the money.
He loved her, but he didn't pick up the remains. Okay. Money, as we said from the beginning, is going to be a huge issue in this case. As a matter of fact, it's all about the motive during the opening statement of prosecutors. But here's a question. Was Tex McIver better off financially with Diane alive or with Diane dead?
Alive, 100%.
I would say better off financially after she died, but pre-legal expenses.
Prosecution, then two different versions of where the gun was and what was happening with it. Prosecutors say the gun was pointed at Diane at the back of the seat. The defense said no, it was on the lap and it went off accidentally. Will the gun experts make or break this case?
It's certainly going to change the case. I mean, I think if they follow what the defense experts say, that's much more helpful than it was on the side. It goes more to Tex's narrative.
I don't think it matters. I think just as psychologists and psychiatrists, the state has one, defense has one. Both experts will say it's the defense or the prosecution. I think it's going to be a wash.
All right. During opening statements, this came up again. Tex told Danny Jo, the driver, to slow down on the way to the hospital. Is there any way the defense can explain that?
No cop stop. No accident. Absolutely.
Yeah, I mean, don't speed. I mean, don't get into an accident, slow down. I mean, I don't know how fast she was driving. Was she going 100? They said slow down to 70. I mean, so it can make a little bit of a difference, but I don't think that's I don't think it's strange.
All right. Tex McIver was crying in court today. What do you think? Real tears? Crocodile tears?
I think it doesn't matter. He needs vulnerability and likability. And if the jury likes him and believes him, he is going to be acquitted. If not,
Yeah, I mean, I think they're real tears, and I guess you could surmise it was either because he's feeling bad for himself or really missed his wife, was upset that she was dead. Either way, he had tears that were real.
One of the biggest moments today came at the end of the prosecution's opening statement where they said Tex McIver tried to buy his way out of all of this. Is that proof of murder?
No, that's just proof of somebody who's lived his life fancy and has money and has a 76-acre farm in Putnam County, a beautiful condo in Buckhead, and his wife's worth $12 million. That's just how he's gotten things done in his life, and that's how he thinks this would get done.
it's proof of someone who's 74 or 75, scared to death, he's drowning, he's reaching at anything, he's using his logic, which is non-logic.
All right, we had opening statements today. We had a few witnesses as well. I want to get a quick take from you guys. Who had a better day today, prosecution or defense? Lawrence?
Again, I'll say it over and over again, the defense had a better day because the defendant is presumed innocent until proven guilty beyond a reasonable doubt.
Darryl, prosecution or defense today?
Defense, because if the prosecution's opening witnesses are any indication of what the case is, they don't have one.
All right. Good job, guys. Let me get these back, and now we can kind of go through this stuff in a little more depth. And we're trying to get our internet connection going here so we can see what's happening here. Oh, you got a phone? Do you have a phone? All right, we're going to get a phone over here. All right, Darryl, let me start. Money has so much to do with all of this. And let's get to that issue of better off alive or dead for Tex McIver. On the one hand, he owed Diane money because he borrowed money from her to do improvements on the ranch. So his bank account was $5,000 when she died. Only $5,000 in his bank account.
But so what? It was their money. It may have been her assets, but while they're married, it's their money. So whether he had 5,000, 50,000, or no thousand, it really doesn't matter, because there was no indication of any divorce. There was no indication of this phantom will. So why would he even worry about how much money
But
he
they
had?
kept separate bank accounts.
Sure.
Like from the time that they were married. It was a second marriage for both of them. I think one of the issues was that they wanted Austin, the child, the godson, to eventually get the ranch. So there seemed to be some issues about that. Still not clear. But do you think, Lawrence, that he's better off financially with his wife alive or dead here, and why?
Yeah, I mean, I absolutely think he's better off with her alive. First of all, when she dies, you have to probate the estate and go through all that. It's going to take who knows how long to get money. He obviously needed money immediately because he sold a lot of her items in an estate sale because he needed the money. If she's alive, he doesn't have to worry about any of this. I think I heard that just the upkeep on the ranch is $200,000 a year, and he makes $15,000 a month. So he's way better off with her alive because she has the money, she's there, and I haven't heard anything that he wasn't allowed to dip into her account. There's nothing about he committed fraud or he stole some of her money. There's been none of that. It's always just been equally shared. Whatever she makes, he helps himself too. Whatever he makes, it's like my relationship with my wife. It's 50-50. Or 70-30.
His wife made a lot more money than he did. And we heard financials today where he was a partner, an equity partner in a firm, but was slowly retiring. He went from over $600,000 a year to under $300,000 a year. And prosecutors say he wanted to retain and live that same life. But he couldn't, and that's what drained his bank account. Is he kept living like he was making $600, but he's making under $300.
But he could because his wife was alive. That's how he was able to keep living that life. What's a 75-year-old man going to kill his wife for? I mean, how much longer is his life expectancy to what, 88? She's much younger. I mean, it doesn't make any sense. He's going to knock her off to get her will, and he doesn't even know how much longer he has.
Look, how many of us know people that would, me included, love to make $300,000 a year? Oh my gosh, I was making $6 and now I'm making $3.
Under
Very
$3.
well. Under $3. He also had Social Security. I suspect he also had a retirement. So it's not as it appears. There's more to the
Did you
rest
see?
of
I mean,
us.
incredible pictures they were showing us today of the ranch,
Yep.
and very elaborate. There was a gun range there. So the other thing that came out today was guns. This is a guy who knows about guns. So how on earth does a guy who knows about guns and has so many guns and has a sign at his ranch that says, it's a picture of a gun, and then it says, "We don't call 911." By the way, he didn't call 911. But someone who knows so much about guns, how does it go off accidentally? How does that happen?
It shouldn't, But accidents happen. That's why they call them accidents. It was stupid.
Are you,
It was
but
bad conduct.
are you buying, and I gotta look up the actual name of this disorder that he apparently has, okay? REM behavior disorder. Okay, he's got a sleep disorder that makes him do things when he's asleep. I mean, is it a disorder that impacts his index fingers, or what? I mean, is a jury going to believe that?
Yeah,
Is that a
I don't-
credible
I don't-
defense to go down that
I
road?
don't know enough. Was this it's a parasomnia? Was this diagnosed previous to this, or they diagnosed it after the
We'll
accident
find
or
out.
murder?
We'll find out.
Because if it was previous medical history, then I'm buying it more. But this sort of part seems like a stretch. I first heard about it yesterday.
Yeah.
So
I find it incredible that they would come up with that defense. A real defense, careless, reckless, should not have done it, should not have had it.
But he was asleep, and then he woke
I was
up,
asleep
and,
when I
and
woke
the gun,
up.
and then it just went off.
That is a
How
possibility.
does that happen? The gun apparently, according to the defense, was in the bag. Literally, it was in this plastic Publix. Publix is a grocery chain, a grocery store chain down here. But it was in a Publix plastic bag in the console. She takes it out, Diane, hands it to him. It's on his lap, and he falls asleep within, we did the drive last night with Mo and Meg. And the drive takes about 8 minutes to the part where the gun went off from where we believe he took the gun out. So in 8 minutes, he falls asleep, and then at a red light, the gun goes off.
So I think the problem has become is because Claude McIver, I like to call him Claude, not Tex, but I really think the problem has become he made so many different statements after the arrest that the defense is trying to cover all their bases. Because, I mean, it's just, he hit a bump. There was somebody outside.
Yeah, I don't know if there's a bump at the red light. There were bumps on the road last night.
There was a bump at some point when the guy, I think at some point there's a statement that there's a bump
Right.
and the gun went off. So I think they're trying to take all of this now into some sort of sleep disorder. I'm with Daryl. I think they sort of really just kept it a little more basic.
Quite frankly, I think he is his own worst enemy. And as I said earlier, likability and vulnerability. The facts are what they are. And if a jury likes him, they're going to acquit him if he's likable and looks vulnerable. Right now, the pictures I've seen of him in court, he needs a makeup artist or a stylist to look older and more frail.
All right, again, folks, if you have any questions or comments, I'm reading everything here. Latasha, how about he wanted her to bleed out?
Is that, you mean as far as like that's why let's take a slow drive to the hospital?
Well, and again, the big, it's been a big issue, this whole thing about going to the hospital, and I don't think there's going to be a testimony that there were closer hospitals, but from the opening statements, it seemed like it took maybe 10, 15, 20 minutes to get to the hospital. And he told her to slow down.
Yeah, but that doesn't bother me. I don't know. Lawrence mentioned earlier, how fast were they going? They were not on the freeway. They were on
He was
surface
scared
roads.
of women with babies in carriages. It's 10:30 on a Sunday. Is the jury going to believe that?
I would believe they're worried about a cop stop. I worry about
That would be
accident,
good. Then you get a
running
police
red light.
escort to the hospital.
No, it's still 5 or 6 minutes while the police officer is being told what happened, and then they have to start again. So no, I would disagree.
I mean, I think the strangest part of the story is my understanding is they didn't call 911, did they? Right?
No, 911 was never called.
So I mean, I think to me that's a bigger piece of the forget slowing down. I mean, why isn't anybody calling 911 on the way to the
It
hospital?
doesn't bother me either.
Now, when they do get to the hospital, he does yell out gunshot, so he lets them know it's a gunshot case. Brian says, can anyone say O.J. Simpson?
O.J. Simpson.
Well, O.J. Simpson, in my view at the time, as I said then, as I say now, was guilty beyond belief. Johnny Cochran turned that into a racial case in a part of Los Angeles that was almost completely African American. It never was the facts that made that decision.
Well, I mean, I think I've heard Bruce Harvey, who's one of Claude's lawyers, say that this is a political hit job.
Tex.
It's a political hit job. He hasn't elaborated what the politics are, but
This case?
political hit job.
Now, Wendy is saying, what did he do to tamper with the witness? So this is the other part that's, and I thought the defense actually did a good job of explaining this, is initially prosecutors say Tex is saying, don't say you were in the car to the driver, Danny Joe. But then the defense's explanation during their opening statement was, well, the testimony was going to be he didn't want her to have to get involved in all of this. Is that good?
First of all,
Does that
I
work?
think they're making a big mistake.
Who?
The defense. If what they're saying on opening statement actually happens from the witness stand, they're cool. But if the testimony is other than that, then they're making a mistake. You always, in my view, save that for closing argument when you can tie together everything that was said, both pro and con, from the witness stand to make the jury make a decision for your client, be it the state.
Meg Strickler, member of our legal dream team watching. Why would he not pay to get her ashes? It was less than $2,000. It was $1,600. He leaves her ashes there, doesn't pick up the love of his life, right? And his explanation was he wanted the estate to pay for it, her estate.
Well,
my goodness, $1,600 you don't want to pick up your wife's ashes?
But Meg's a high roller. I mean, she picked up a bottle of champagne for us in Jamaica, right?
Yes,
Joe?
she
Hey, last time you told me Tex is a high roller because he's making under $300,000.
This was no longer his
1600
wife. It was no longer his wife. These were ashes. For all he knew, they were switched with a dog's ashes. I'm saying that because ashes
We need
are
more-
not his
But
We
wife.
need more
her friend
information.
ends up picking it
We need
up.
more information.
Her friend picks up
Okay.
the ashes and pays for it. Doesn't that tell you something?
Maybe he didn't have access to. He's obviously having trouble.
He had
making money.
$1,600 because he sold all her jewelry
We
already.
don't know all that.
Did he get the money already? I just think we're making a mountain out of a molehill when we're talking about ashes.
But I think
You don't think a jury's going to latch onto that?
They might.
That's what
think
I'm
a
doing.
female
I'm,
would
I'm
or
playing
male.
the devil's advocate
Making
of
mountain out
the
of molehill ashes.
everyday juror who is looking at some of the stuff, saying it's not. I mean, no juror's going to say, yeah, I would leave my husband or wife's ashes there. No one would do that.
I would think that
Even if you
have her
didn't have
buried-
millions of dollars like MacGyver, you wouldn't do that.
But the problem
Who
is,
does that?
The problem is we get into these cases with every single case is we're trying to
figure out if he loves
every
money or his
single
wife
detail
more.
of his life.
Both.
Isn't that what this case ultimately is about? Which does Tex McIver love more, his wife or his money?
No, it's all about whether the gun went off by accident or not.
And it's also about vulnerability and likability.
You keep saying that.
Yes,
I think
do,
you got a
because-
theme here.
Yes,
but
I do.
But it makes sense. It does make sense.
One guy said, these guys must be on the defense team.
I'm on the defense team today
Every
because
day.
that's what it is today.
Right.
The prosecution has to show guilt beyond the exclusion of every.
Let me just
reasonable doubt.
vouch on behalf of the Dream Team. And Lawrence is a great criminal defense attorney, and he always sees things through that filter for the most part.
Sorry.
No, but that's his job, and he's really good at it. So if you get in trouble, you call Lawrence. You can call Daryl too. Daryl will look at it, I think, a little more objectively.
I try to.
He tries to. So just so we're completely transparent here. Both great attorneys, by the way. Now, Latonia, another member of the Dream Team, says,
What is this?
they're ganging up on you.
What is this?
The women of the Dream Team ganging up on you two tonight. He could have sold some of his guns to pay for the ashes.
It's not
point.
about that. In my view, it's not about that. It's about the ashes are not his wife. They're not even the remains of his wife. There are ashes, and he would not be able, absent DNA, to distinguish her ashes versus any other ashes.
Wendy makes another good point. Didn't his wife not want to see him in the hospital? True.
We'll find out.
Well, that's what the testimony is going to be, according to
believe.
prosecutors.
Right, but she also said it was an accident before she died.
Right.
So, I mean, you got to put those together. She was dying. Who knows? Maybe she didn't want to.
She's probably a little mad.
Yeah.
Don't look at me when I'm dying, when I'm in a terrible condition.
Right, they should-
Look at me, all made up, hair done, ready to go. Out.
All right, here's Brian. Says he claimed he was scared of Black Lives Matter, and that was the reason for carrying the gun. And then he actually inserted an eye roll in his, kind of like that, in his.
Again.
Now, here's the thing.
again.
Wait. Let me couch this question.
Okay.
All right? The Black Lives Matter issue in this case, right? Does the defense embrace it, or do they run away from it? Because it was very confusing with how they dealt with it today. And they say they're blaming the media for blowing this thing up and making it bigger than it is. But it's an important fact. Why does he feel the need to have the gun? Is it credible to think that Tex McIver would want the gun in his hand because there was a Black Lives Matter demonstration in the area? At least he believed there was.
I think first of all, number one, who came up with the idea of the statement? Was it Tex, Claude, or Bill Crane, his publicist? I mean, I want to hear that evidence. Did Tex tell him specifically it was Black Lives Matter? And maybe, because they've changed the narrative a little bit too, they were in an area where...
Why do they
didn't
change
feel
the narrative? Can't we just tell the truth?
Well, the truth is
Well, the
something,
truth
if
was
you
it was
tell
a-
the truth, you don't have to remember what you said.
He didn't like the area, I guess, probably been his best statement, as opposed to saying there's a Black Lives Matters protest. Maybe he really thought that, and that's what he told Crane, and they softened it a little bit to say they were in an area of town that didn't have the best safety.
Doesn't either one though help the defense? Like
Sure, but they're just trying not to prejudice the jury because they don't want anyone to think he's afraid of Black Lives Matters.
But isn't it actually better for him to be afraid of Black Lives Matter if he said that?
No.
Why? But he's on trial for murder, not on trial for his racial beliefs.
But his racial beliefs can make or break him.
Right.
And if African Americans in that jury don't like him because they believe is a racist, they will convict him regardless of the evidence.
Really?
Just as any other jury. It's likability, vulnerability.
So they won't like him, and so they're less likely to believe his story, is what you're saying.
If they think he's a racist, he's less likable, and he's more likely to get convicted.
In the same way, he is not looking like a meek 75-year-old needs to look. He needs to look frail. He's looking robust.
This case would have never had legs if they just said we were in an area that we believe was crime-ridden, so he took his gun out. Done.
Agreed.
Or if he didn't try to pay off the DA, allegedly.
Well, he didn't try to pay off Paul.
I understand,
He tried to pay off
but
someone
the
else who was
case-
supposed
to pay off the DA.
But this case would have never even gotten that far
But
because...
as soon as the DA hears that, the DA is not putting the brakes on this
But
case.
nobody picked up this case until he said Black Lives Matters. That's when the thing jumped.
Here's an incredible statement from Sandy. Sandy?
From Jersey.
Joycey.
What if they had not taken the Edgewood Avenue exit and continued on to Buckhead the normal way? There was traffic that night, that's why they took this exit. Would he have asked for the gun? That is what has made me unable to decide if this was an accident or did he see his opportunity and take it. So I don't think prosecutors here can argue that there was a master plan necessarily that night to do it. I think the only argument they can have for murder is, I've got the gun in my hand, I've got an opportunity now. This might be a good time to do it, because he had no idea beforehand. I don't think you can argue credibly that he knew that they would be taking the Edgewood exit, because there's no reason to take that but for the Sunday night traffic on the connector. Agree?
Which in itself is highly unusual.
That's unusual, right? That traffic that night on a Sunday night, I don't know if there was a game or what was going on, but that traffic is very unusual.
So I'm in fear that something could happen. We're in a transitional neighborhood. It's easier maybe for me to say Black Lives Matter. Maybe it's easier for me to say I'm fearful because of the neighborhood. Having a gun, a man his age, and frail with his wife and the driver, it would not be unusual. It would not be me, but it would not be unusual.
Oscar, money is the root to all evil. And so ultimately, what do you think becomes the key to this case? And I'm just trying to check. I don't see a clock on here. You don't have a clock? Do you have a clock?
5 till.
5 till? All right, we're about to wrap up here, folks. I thought it was about 5. So what do you think is going to be the biggest issue in this case? Will it be how the gun went off in terms of expert testimony? Will it be about the motive, you know, the financials and the motive here, or something else?
I personally think that the biggest thing is going to be the people that knew Tex and who he contacted immediately afterwards and what he told them.
Okay.
Because we really just keep hearing things. What's the inside story
And he was talking a lot.
that he conveyed to them, not to the media or anybody else? I mean,
And there were
we're getting bits and pieces. Once you see those witnesses, the driver, other friends, Bill Crane, Jeff Dickerson, I think we get a better picture of really who Claude McIver is. Is he Tex or is he Claude?
Is he Tex or Claude? Likability
Or vulnerability.
vulnerability.
The facts are going to be what they are. And I think if you look at the facts without anybody's personality, without the things that he did to shoot himself in the foot after the incident, the facts, in my view, should be involuntary manslaughter, accident, reckless conduct. But because of what he did, he has to overcome it in the courtroom with the way he looks and acts, his body language, his facial expressions, and once again, and finally, vulnerability and likability, or lack thereof.
But did he shoot himself in the foot by accident or intentionally?
I think it's a definite maybe.
Lawrence Zimmerman and Daryl Cohen, 2 members of the Dream Team here. You get in trouble, you call these guys.
404-351-3000.
There you go.
One call, no more.
Again, we do this every night, 7:30. Remember, the trial is streaming on our Facebook page and begins every morning at about 9 o'clock. It's also on our YouTube channel as well, so you can watch it there if you want to. And we do this show every night live at 7:30. Bring your questions, bring your comments. You are a part of the conversation here because you are the 13th juror. We're going to show you some highlights of the trial and weave together some analysis tonight on the late